Rachel, thank you for speaking to me.
No worries.
Can you tell me why marriage equality is such an important issue to you?
Well, I have been campaigning for around this issue since I came out of the closet, which was in my mid-20s, and my family was Christian and is Christian, and very supportive later on after I came out of the closet, but they found it very challenging. So at the beginning, and so I very much identified with a lot of LGBTIQA youth who had found it difficult to come out. And my family is very supportive now and are following the marriage equality campaign blow by blow, hour by hour, which is fantastic. But the discrimination that particularly young queers experience was the thing that really motivated me to get involved and win full equality, marriage equality. So from my own personal experience, but also from identifying with the struggles of queer youth, that's why I think this campaign is really important to win.
You're part of the Socialist Alliance. What has the Socialist Alliance's involvement been so far in the campaign?
Yeah, well, Socialist Alliance put a lot of energy at the beginning stages. So it was 2004 that the marriage ban was enacted, and it was Friday. It was August the 13th, Black Friday as we called it. And before then, we had heard that the marriage ban was being discussed and touted. It was June 2004 that there was a big marriage convention with a lot of Christian right bigots in Canberra. About 700 or so had a meeting, and at that meeting Nicola Roxon from the Labor Party and John Howard, who was the Prime Minister of the Liberal Party at that stage, got up and said, yes, we're going to introduce a marriage ban. And it was there that queers were called moral terrorists of the 21st century, unfit to raise children and psychologically disturbed. And that's when we realised that this battle was really on, because prior to that, while John Howard had said he was thinking of introducing a marriage ban, there was nothing really that concrete. So it was in the lead up to the elections, and so we moved and mobilised, and Socialist Alliance was very involved in organising the rallies in the lead up to and helping re-establish Community Action Against Homophobia, which is a Sydney-based organisation which has been around since 1999 and then really kicked into gear around the marriage equality campaign from 2004 on. So really then Socialist Alliance and our other branches in other cities helped other organisations lead rallies and marches and protests and so on. So been really involved from the get-go, and really if we hadn't done what we'd done, if Socialist Alliance hadn't backed this campaign, then we wouldn't be where we are today with so much support. Those beginning stages of the campaign were really quite difficult, as in we only had 33% of the rainbow community on side. That was who supported us. We only had the same amount of people on the outside of the community supporting us as well. So we really had to move and shake on winning a broader support base within the community and on the outside, and we did pretty well on that. But from 2004 to 2009, they were the dog days of the campaign, and we would have long discussions in queer bars and on the Oxford Street strips, and in Newtown in the inner west, where and also out in Sydney's west, where we would go and leaflet and discuss with the community about why they needed to campaign for marriage.
So what do you think changed in 2009?
I think the rallies got a lot bigger, and I think that those 5 years were of the real patient explaining to the community was really important. I think we just had a kind of a moment where outside the ALP National Convention, that's where the rally of 3,000 people took place in Sydney. That was the largest rally that Sydney had organised, and those numbers, we looked at those numbers and went, okay, something has happened. The other thing is, of course, the ACT was an important territory because there was a campaign going on there for civil unions, which actually they won a civil partnership bill. But the Labor Party, who got into power in 2007, actually quashed that. So they were going, the territory ALP government was going for a full civil unions, but the Labor Party federally under Rudd said they didn't want anything that mimicked marriage. So they had to go for a civil partnership bill. But these were significant developments, as in we could see that our protest movement was having an impact. So we were winning civil partnerships, we were also winning relationship schemes with councils coming out and saying, yes, we will recognise your relationship if that helps in court and that helps with homophobic families. We were gaining actual, real institutional support. And so people got excited and realised that the protests were having an impact. So from then on, the polls started to see a shift as more and more people were coming out in favour of marriage equality. We also saw a whole bunch more of young people at that stage coming to the rallies. Really from that stage, it was the high school students and that were really moving and defending their mates at high school who were being bullied. So that was fantastic to see. And then, yeah, that's when we also started to see the rural and regional cities take action.
We're seeing more and more people from the ALP and the Liberal Party even coming out in support of marriage equality. How do you feel about this? Is it positive, or do you think they're hijacking for debate?
Good question. We've been campaigning to have a broad alliance from the very start. So we knew that a united campaign was a strong campaign, and we appealed to Rainbow Labor and we appealed to organisations in Sydney who were more in line with a Labor Party framework. We appealed to those LGBTI rights organisations and said, come on board, we can do this together. And some of them responded positively and joined us on the streets. And then some did not, and some organised, in fact, organised within the Rainbow community polls and sit-down meetings with the community saying all you need is relationship recognition. So in that beginning stage of the campaign, it was relationship recognition, said these organisations that you wanted. It wasn't marriage equality, you don't want civil unions, and we had to combat that, of course. And really, we're not a forced marriage equality campaign. If you do want to get married, you can get married. We are about expanding choice, and that's what we patiently explained to people. But so that is the real history of the campaign. The real history of the campaign is that the Labor Party voted for this homophobic bill in 2004. And the real history of the campaign is that they have been dragged through the course of the campaign as people, as the ranks in the Rainbow community, and as people keep mobilising, they have been dragged to a position where they've supported marriage equality. The second largest rally, the largest rally that we've seen actually in queer history in Australia was outside the ALP National Conference in 2011. So no surprise there. That was massive. That was 10 to 11,000 people, all calling on the Labor Party to bind their vote and for marriage equality now. So at that stage, the Labor Party changed their party platform to supporting marriage equality but allowed a free vote, a conscience vote, which meant that the bigots in the party got to vote the marriage bill down. So that is the real history of the campaign, and we are rallying again for the third time outside the ALP National Conference this coming July the 25th in Melbourne. People should get down if they can. In a national mobilisation, again to say, you've got this as party platform, bind your vote, don't let the homophobes do this.
You've talked about voting. Obviously the Irish vote, the referendum there, has provided a momentum. What do you say to those who want a plebiscite or a referendum here on the issue?
Yeah, that's a good question too. We're so excited. Go the Irish. Well, we've been, through Community Action Against Homophobia, we've been looking at the referendum question. And we did call, we've put out press releases and had discussions with organisations calling for a referendum here because we would clearly win it. Hands down, clearly win it. But that's, it just didn't really, there was no other organisations that were keen on that. So I think the thing is the government would be scared of a referendum, Labor or Liberal, because it would be overwhelmingly supportive. And then they would have to act rapidly. I mean, I think the other thing for us queer youth, the rates of queer youth suicide are still really high. queer youth are up to 14 times more likely to self-harm than their straight counterparts. And so for the marriage campaigners, when the youth stepped into the campaign en masse and started to organise, that was a really good thing. But even, you know, if we had all these young people rallying and marching and mobilising, but these other organisations just didn't want to move in these different tactics that we were trying to employ. And if we didn't have any allies, and we couldn't pull it through. But the thing is, the referendum too in Ireland was the first referendum that was held on this question. So there were referendums against marriage equality, and they were held in the United States of America. But yeah, it was really great to win that one. Jeez, go the Irish.
How do you reassure people who perhaps oppose marriage equality on religious, cultural, traditional grounds?
Yeah, well, we look at history and just say, well, actually there were some churches who opposed interracial marriage as well, and that was a bad thing. There are some churches that oppose marrying LGBTI couples, but that's not human rights. That's not equality. That's not justice. And we want marriage equality. So we don't want any church to discriminate against a queer couple, and we are campaigning for a world that doesn't discriminate, full stop. If you believe in God, still means that you can't discriminate against Aboriginal people, against refugees, and against queers. Against women who don't have a partner, are not married, you can't discriminate against them either. So actually, I mean, when we win marriage equality, and we will win it, that's great, but there's also other things that we need to win. So those other things are getting rid of the ability for churches to discriminate. And, you know, there's a lot of funding from the governments moving to churches in this privatisation model in the latest neoliberal offensive. That particularly the state government is waging against women's services, women rape crisis services. But now with all of this money in Salvation Army hands, in churches' hands, they've got the right to turn single women away, queers away, and so on, because of their right to discriminate. So that's one big issue that we're looking at nailing in the next period as well, and keep raising within the framework of the campaign.
So marriage equality is not the end of discrimination. There's still a way to go, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the other thing is trans rights and forced trans divorce. We are, you know, making sure that at the rallies, I mean, that's why we called a marriage equality campaign. We've moved on from gay marriage at the beginning stages of the campaign, moved on from same-sex marriage at the middle stages of the campaign to marriage equality, because we recognise the trauma and the pain that the trans community experience and the intersex crew experience, and we want to raise them up with us. So, I mean, forced trans divorce, how we overcome that? Well, we need a marriage equality bill that is non-gender specific, so marriages between two people, but we also need free operations for the trans crew. It can be up to $20,000 for an operation from female to male, $14,000 to $21,000 from female to male, and that's not on. It should be free. Healthcare should be free. And the other thing being that some trans crew don't actually want operations, and they should be recognised for the sex and gender that they are and become without having to go through invasive surgery. So actually the ACT has done some good work on this, and we want to follow that model. But these are the things that we have to win if we're going to eliminate forced trans divorce, which is also pretty freaking traumatic experience to go to. You get married, you change your identity, your sex, and then the state comes in and says no, you're not married. So that's something we can't forget. What
do you say to those who oppose marriage equality on patriarchal grounds, or because perhaps they think that it entrenches a divide between married and unmarried couples?
Well, that was the argument that I had with someone in the Labor Party just after the marriage ban was introduced. Tanya Plibersek and I were interviewed on Queer FM radio here in Sydney, and that was the argument. That is, that marriage is a patriarchal institution, so the rainbow community shouldn't want to demand it and campaign for it. And our response is, well, look, it's about choice, and feminism is about expanding choice for women as well. And we find it particularly hypocritical that people in the heterosexual community, in the political establishment, say that and are married. It really is, I think, a way to the marriage campaign of challenging that patriarchal institution, the rigid gender binaries that the corporations make so much money out of. Women's unpaid labour in the home is worth $116,000 a year in Australia, and the governments don't have to pay for childcare because it's women's natural role within the home to raise children. I mean, all of this stuff, the queer liberation movement is about breaking down those gender binaries and within the home, collectivising the roles of the roles of those people who are supposed to do this kind of unpaid work, this kind of dirty work, and so on. So I think it's the marriage equality campaign. It is challenging those rigid gender binaries. So that's one part of it. And in the end, if you don't want a gay wedding, don't get gay married. So, you know, it is about expanding choice.
What do you think of people like Alan Jones coming on board? Do you think they have much influence?
Yeah, well, I think that it's a reflection of the strength of the campaign, and I think it's a reflection that the rainbow community has mobilised and rallied and protested real hard, both here and internationally, and that we have these conservative voices coming on board. So, and it's good that these people are coming out and supporting us, but it's a result of our really hard work, so hats off to us.
What do you think the timeline is for marriage equality?
I think that we're going to definitely win marriage equality here in Australia. There's no two ways about it. And the exact time when and where, you know, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, maybe it'll be in August 2015, maybe that's our month. And if it was on August the 13th, that'd be spectacular because that's, you know, that's chronologically symmetrical. So, but I think the main thing is that we can't determine what they do in parliamentary manoeuvres, but what we can determine is that anger is mobilised in a strong force on the ground, and street heat is the thing that's going to win it. So, you know, in Australia we have the Vietnam War campaign, the Franklin Dam campaign, we've got the coal seam gas campaign. We also have the Aboriginal community who have won some concessions just recently. They tried to close the communities down in South Australia, but there's this massive movement. So we do have these campaigns which have won. The campaign down in Tasmania to get the male homosexuality off the criminal code, that was a grassroots campaign as well. So we have all of these examples, and we're going to do it again.
One more question. How can people who support marriage equality get more involved?
There's heaps of great rallies coming up, so you can come along to a Community Action Against Homophobia meeting. Just check out our Facebook page. There's rallies in Melbourne on July the 25th. Again, check out Facebook. Equal Love, all these groups around the country, Equal Love Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, they've all got rallies coming up in the next period. So there's lots of that. There's a Queer Collaborations conference going on in Canberra next week. There's actually quite a lot that people can come and do, participate in, and be part of this campaign. Come to the rallies is the very bare minimum. Get the leaflets, get the posters, have the discussions in the workplace. But yeah, importantly, we've really got to build these rallies and mobilisations, because the dates look like August 11th, there may be a cross-party bill put, and then August the 18th, allegedly, according to some media reports, there's going to be a Liberal Party caucus discussion. So August is a really crucial month, and we've got to move rapidly now. And also the thing is, we want to be part of history. Should come to Canberra for the bill, when the bill is put, and we can have the biggest, most amazing rainbow party that Australia's ever seen after. So
you talked about Canberra. Would it also help to write to senators and MPs as well?
Yeah, look, I don't think that that's a bad thing to do, but I think that there is a wing of the campaign that is only emphasising that. And really, the MPs are going to listen to the street heat, and they're going to look at these rallies. There's 16,000 people going on Facebook to this Perth rally on Saturday. That's extraordinary. There's 8,000 coming to our rally on August the 9th here in Sydney at Sydney Town Hall at 1 o'clock on Facebook. That's pretty spectacular. If we get half of that in Perth, that's the largest rally that Perth has seen for queer rights. So yeah, we want to make rainbow history, and this is also, I guess, a call out to people who aren't in the rainbow community. Come out and support your sisters and your brothers and your non-gendered specifics, because we want you to be part of making this leap forward in Australia. And while this is our victory, your support is totally crucial. And so yeah, all the families and the friends and the aunties and the uncles, please come out as well.
Rachel Evans, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.